Welcome to my virtual campfire. I'm really excited today to be here with Rupert. He is an alien contact specialist. He's going around the country talking and bringing in aliens, doing meditations. I'm just really excited to have him here with us today. Rupert, can you tell me how you got started with this mission that you're on?
Yeah, well, from a very early age, I've been very empathic. When I was a little kid, I felt people's and animals' emotions, and I've always wanted to help the planet, help people, help animals, and that led me to try to understand reality, understand morality, so that, the more you understand about reality, the better equipped you are to solve the world's problems. And so I started to try and understand reality by learning about, well, everything, but I focused on science. I went into space science and technology, but I've also studied my entire life all of those paranormal questions, things that that science has not yet worked out good answers to, because I thought, well, if any of that is true, I should know that too, so that I can help to solve the world's problems. And that all has led me to this point today, where with the application of logic to both scientific realities and also paranormal realities, I have a fairly coherent picture of the structure of reality, the universe, the beings that are out there. And now I contact them, I communicate with them, I work with them in order to solve the world's and the universe's problems.
When did you have your first contact with an extraterrestrial being?
I've been going out since I was in my late teens, outside on top of hills, reaching out to these beings and asking them to come in. And I've seen some unusual things, but the first real confirmation I had, where I just realized, hang on a second, I've just proved this, was probably about 5 years ago, when I was leading an online group meditation, and we astrally projected out into the universe to try to find some kind of entity out there that might be a healing entity that might like to help to heal people. And in this meeting of maybe about 20 people, 5 of them during the meditation all saw the same being psychically. And when I asked the being, what is your name? They all heard the same name. And they all saw that this being was holding a baby or babies around them. And there was so many pieces of confirmation that we just, at the end of it, we were just blown away. Like, we have just made verified, proved contact.
Mm-hmm.
And we now have a relationship, a friendship with that being. We call her a she. She's not actually female gender, but she has that sort of energy to her. She is an extraterrestrial called Tuk Tuk.
Oh, Tuk Tuk. I've actually had contact with Tuk Tuk as well. That's really interesting.
Wow,
Yeah,
that is fascinating.
that's wow, that's actually really surprising. um uh, okay. Sorry, that like took me by surprise because I wasn't expecting that. When I first started contacting for me, the contact came as physical contact. I was taken onto a ship, and I call it a mothership, but it was in 1996. And my only recollection of the memory was that it was profound, but I couldn't remember what happened. And so it wasn't until about probably 5 years ago when I did a regression hypnosis session and the memories came back. And once I opened up those channels again, I have fairly open communication with many beings. And before I had done the regression, though, I am a writer, and I started writing a book that I thought was a science fiction book, and I started channeling the Galactic Federation, and this was in like 2010, and I'd never heard that term Galactic Federation before, And in my story, my character, she was friends with this federation. She was an emissary of light for it. And in hindsight now, I realize that that was actually more of a channel or a download. It was less of my imagination and more of direct contact. But I didn't know it at the time. I was just writing, and I didn't find out until much, much later, like 10 years later, that that was actually real
Yeah.
things. I just thought it was science fiction.
Well, that's fantastic. What's the name of your book?
I never published it. It's sitting in my journal, and I have other books I've published, but that one, uh, it's just sitting there, and it's in my journals. It's written down, and yeah, it kind of was a project that fizzled out. I had a lot of things going on in life at the time, and I just I didn't I didn't finish it. But it's a confirmation that uh, that I've been doing this longer than I knew. Like
Yeah,
I was unconsciously doing it, and now I'm consciously doing it. So that's it's an evolution.
that's wonderful.
Can you tell me, one of the things I find very fascinating is the amount of beings, the amount of types of beings that are out there. Can you tell me some of your maybe more, maybe how would I phrase this? Your favorite beings, or ones that you're in contact with the most, or that you learn the most from?
I guess there's two main categories of beings: those that are humanoid, those that are not. The universe is a big place with hundreds of thousands of galaxies, and each galaxy hundreds of thousands of stars, and etc. So there is huge diversity out there, and we can astrally project to anywhere in the universe, in space and in time. So we do encounter vast numbers of very unusual beings. Um, and when you encounter those, sometimes it's actually quite hard to recognize that you're detecting a life form, because they might be like a swirl of gas, or just as a shape that is meaningless to our psychology, but it is a life form. Um, the more evolved species get, the more telepathically and psychically and spiritually advanced they get, the more they become less individualistic, more connected, and more of a collective as well. So a lot of people are trying to connect with individual entities that are out there, where actually a lot of them are collectives, and they have a very different feel and appearance when you perceive them, and a lot of times they're overlooked. Um, but closer to home, there are, I would describe as terrestrial and extraterrestrial humanoid entities. We are connecting a lot with the Arcturians. We know three in particular by name: Sashki, Helmiad, and Rimioid. And we work with Sashki quite a lot. She also heals. The Arcturians are very interested in supporting our evolution into a better future. They're interested in things like environmental considerations and problems on this planet. So Sashki is one being we connect with a lot. We've established a friendship with the tall white beings that live outside of Las Vegas, northwest of Las Vegas.
No.
If people have ever seen the documentary Walking with the Tall Whites,
Mhm.
well, we started reaching out to them first astrally, and then in-person contact events, and this led to us seeing their craft and them actually inviting us to go further into the desert where they live. So we had an expedition 2 years ago where we drove in convoy out there into the desert, and connected with them, communed with them, and saw them and talked to them. And I've got one or two video clips where I just managed to catch a little glimpse of their transdimensional vessels. We have a philosophy of or a vision of universal peace, universal love, universal well-being. What that means is we're completely non-discriminatory. So we reach out in peace, in friendship. We offer friendship to all beings, including some beings that some people consider to be bad. I have had a few friends over the years who've connected, for example, with reptilians. And when I've talked to my friends about their experiences with reptilians, they're always positive experiences. So we reached out to reptilians a little while ago, well, a few years ago, and we asked them to come and talk to us so we could get to know them a little bit. And to our knowledge, we didn't have any turn up at that event, but they heard us. And then in subsequent events, they started to show up at our in-person events and online events in a protective capacity. When they showed up, I said to them, well, you know, we actually reached out in friendship to you a few weeks ago. And they said, yeah, we know, we heard. That's why we're here. We're here to support you. We like what we're doing. And now they come to us, and even they heal people at our events, both online and in person. We have connected recently with Lyrans. There's a Lyran, I'm not going to try and pronounce his name, but something like Garkyle. And we received an invitation about nearly a year ago, to connect with the Galactic Council that represents the Galactic Federation. Yeah. So we went to them, and we've been reaching out to them and connecting with them on a weekly basis. I have an online group that connects 3 or 4 times a week, and we're slowly, carefully getting to know the members of the Galactic Council, and that's a real joy.
That's amazing. It's a really important work that you're doing, and it aligns very much with the work that we're doing with the Universe on Earth. We have been called to create healing spaces for people to tell their stories about extraterrestrial contact that they have, and to really take disclosure into the hands of the people, because what we've found is that a lot of people don't want to share their stories because of the stigma that is involved with it. Yeah. And we just want to break that down so that people feel comfortable. And so for the last, since 2022, I was called to do something that I call Alien Open Mic. And it started off in Seattle, where I live. And we started just hosting an open mic where people could come and tell their stories. And it was overwhelmingly successful and positive. People were like, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for sharing the space, for providing a space. And so we came together as a group of Universe on Earth to go throughout North and South America hosting these open mics. And then while we're in the locations that we choose, we're kind of pulled to certain locations that we're guided to. We just started our first South American open mic in Puerto Rico. When I got there, I had the download that that was a strategic location on our planet. It's the southern tip of the Bermuda Triangle. And the people that we encountered, their stories, they just want to be heard. And that kind of brings me back to you mentioned timing right now in a broader sense. This is the time of a massive collective shift. Like you talk about these collectives, and we as humans are also a collective. And so this shift is happening, and I can see it in real time. I can see the joy on people's faces that get to share their stories, and then almost at our open mics, the more positive things are the connections being made behind the scenes of when people really can just make these really heartfelt connections. And so this healing is important for our collective consciousness. I just wanted to ask a little bit more on the subject of time of and even you and I connecting in this way. I feel like the timing is just completely spot on because our mission's so aligned. How are you choosing your locations and the timing of it? How is that working for you on like a human level?
I've been invited to a number of conventions to give workshops and presentations in August and September around the country, and so I put those into my calendar, and then I figure out, well, if I need to get there, and then I need to get to there, and then I need to get to there, I just join the dots.
Yes.
And
Okay.
I have this crazy tour schedule where I'm driving. So for 2 full months, August and September, I will be driving around the country. I'll be hosting events in 25 states. It's in the region of 35 contact events in between all of these other bigger engagements. So that's how I figure it all out. But I also am guided by um, places of significance. For example, I was fortunate enough to have a conversation with Travis Walton. He was next to me in the booth next to me during one convention I did, and he showed me exactly where he was taken. The exact location is not public, and you can look it up online, and you can find the GPS coordinates for how to get there. But he says, no, that's not it. That's wrong. Um, so he doesn't like to tell people where it is, but he told me, he trusted me. And so one of the places that on the tour that I'm going to is the place in the Sitgreaves National Forest where he was taken.
Mm.
We're going to Roswell. Obviously, I don't need to tell people why that's significant. Aurora, Texas, where in 1897 a flying saucer crashed, and it's in the newspaper, and you can find the newspaper online. They buried the alien in the cemetery. We host events in that cemetery. So there's amazing places. Skinwalker Ranch we're going to. A friend of mine who is in the Air Force, who grew up around Skinwalker Ranch, he is very, very connected psychically. And when he was hiking about half an hour from Skinwalker Ranch, him and his family saw a portal open up close to the ground, and lights, UFOs flying in and out. And he felt that it was an invitation for him to enter.
Oh,
He didn't, but we're going back there to see if they will let us in.
I love it. My background is journalism. And so I worked in live TV news and sports at the beginning of my career. And I always wanted to be a National Geographic reporter. Like when I was a kid, that was like my dream. And what I realized after about 7 years of working in live TV was that it was a fear-based propaganda machine. And I was really good at my job, and I no longer wanted to be a part of making something better that I didn't believe in. And so I made a very, very difficult decision to leave the newsroom. I remember handing my badge to my director, and he's like, "Oh, you're just burned out. Take 2 weeks off, you know." Well, those 2 weeks turned into 2 decades, and I've never gone back to the newsroom, but I still have the journalistic integrity. It's a way of relaying information in a narrative that that I hold very, very strongly to my heart, that I want to tell the truth and not expand on people's agendas, you know,
Yeah.
like just actually report what we felt, what
Yes.
we saw. And so that's why this Universe on Earth project has been such a blessing, really, for my own personal like soul's mission to have this like journalistic integrity. And we were covering a MUFON event recently, and I met David Mason, and he is one of the scientists at Skinwalker Ranch who he makes the technologies that that they use to measure these things, like entities, phenomena, whatever it is. And he was telling me something really interesting that I didn't know is that our cameras and our eyes, only pick up specific things. But he's developed these cameras that have different abilities and can see things that we don't see, and it can capture it so that then he can share it with more people. And I was so amazed by that, by his discoveries of this technology. And I wonder if, because you mentioned that you caught a glimpse of their craft, the Tall Whites craft. Have you been able to capture these things on camera? People always want this like empirical like photo.
We have been fortunate to have caught on camera a few times with regular visible light in the visible region of the electromagnetic spectrum craft. In Shawnee, Kansas, 2 or 3 years ago, a psychic was at one of my events looking at me, and she just got a really strong feeling that there's something behind Rupert. I'm going to take some photos. And she started taking photos, and she took 3 photos, and on 2 of them there is a craft. Had angular extension in Hynek's terminology. It would be a close encounter of the first kind within 500 feet. And you can see a partially materialized craft that is clearly there in 2 photographs. I have on a few occasions caught luminous vessels, and now sometimes when I actually specifically psychically reach out to specific beings and I say, hey, I've got my camera out, please can you appear, then I get a brief appearance from them. So this does happen from time to time. It's funny though that the better a photo is, the more likely people are to say, "Oh, that's not real.
No.
That's just CGI or photoshopped or something." But what I'm really trying to do now is to capture in some visual way, on video or camera, these beings around me, because there are very often extra dimensional entities around us, around me, around quite probably you, but just outside of our 3-dimensional spaces. They're almost, they're in spiritual realms almost, and psychic people can perceive them, but they're not within our visible perceptions. And I've seen in a number of places, for example, like in Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, that often their FLIR cameras, their thermal imaging cameras, will pick things up that we can't see visually.
Yep.
So I went out and bought myself a thermal imaging video camera, not cheap, but worth it. And now I set those up around the place when I do contact events. But the entities know they're there, and they will only appear if they wish to.
Yeah.
I have had, I've set up cameras before. I've had entities and craft appear in front of us at events, and I've got so excited that I will have recorded that, because look at where it's standing. I go to the camera and it's been physically turned off.
Yep.
Like the button has been turned to the off position before they appeared. So sometimes they just don't want that.
Yes.
But it's in some respects, you don't want your photographs, your videos to be too impressive, because then you attract so much attention, unwanted attention, and you're no longer able to fulfill this mission of well, our mission of bringing peace, love, and happiness
Yeah.
to among us and these beings. So it's a bit of a fine line.
It is. When we were at this location called Utuado, the highest part of Puerto Rico, this just happened a week ago, a week and a half ago. And it was at night, we were sitting by the campfire, and we had felt, looking out over this valley, we had felt the presence of these beings. And we knew they were there, and we had meditated and interacted with them. But, no empirical evidence, of like on our camera or anything. And then we're sitting around the campfire, and my 8-year-old daughter said, Mom, the aliens are asking me if I want to talk to them. And I was like, oh, that's great. What are they saying? And she started channeling. And I had heard her speak to angels, as she called them, before, but this was the first time that I had heard her channeling, like in real time, these entities. And she said, oh, they're saying to take a picture now, now, now. and and it was interesting because that's not a phrase that my 8-year-old would use, now, now, now. And so I was like, oh my gosh, let's take some photos. And all of us took a photo. It was almost like they gave us a galactic photo booth. Do you know what I mean? Like, we each took a photo, and behind us were these beings, and we caught them on a camera, and we even tried to take photos around the campfire in other angles, but there were no beings in the other angles. It was only when the backdrop behind us was the valley, was this vast open space. And so it was a really exciting moment for me to like just even like as a mom, I'm like, oh my gosh, like my daughter obviously needed to do this research with us, like being an open channel like that was fascinating and awesome. And then capturing those photos was just phenomenal, like we all were so lit up and just so excited that we got this like confirmation. To come back to something you said earlier, when I step foot in certain locations on the planet, I'll get like an instant download of things. And so when I was in Egypt, when we would arrive at the temples, I would take my shoes off and walk up to the temple with my shoes off. And when I got to Dendera and I stepped off the bus, the very first thing that I received was, not all reptilians are bad.
Mm.
And that was a realization for me of just like, oh, I need to actually be more open-minded about these things. We create these constructs, and the reptilians built that temple at Dendera. I think without a doubt, there are, if you go into the sacred tombs that they don't allow you to go into, but we were there with some special guidance, and we were able to pay the guards off to let us into these chambers where they used to store their sacred oils. And in that chamber, there are pictures of reptilians. It's very clear. There are also etchings of light bulbs, of spacecraft, of all sorts of things. And so one of the things that I want to do, just a personal mission, is to uncover these hidden parts of history that I've seen it with my own eyes. I've felt it with my own soul. I know that it exists, but if you tell people these things, we're so programmed to think that it's not possible. And so, just opening our minds, and the work you're doing is absolutely amazing. I am very grateful to have crossed paths in this way. And I believe our team is coming to a few of your locations. I also find it interesting because we have planned August and September very much the way you have. We were planning on driving from Seattle all the way across the country, and hitting certain spots. And it's almost making me wonder, like, maybe our paths are going to intertwine more times.
Yeah, uh, many of the entities out there are guiding us together. I have people contact me from Australia saying, "Hey, is this Rupert? I don't know you, I haven't met, but a tall blue alien that identified herself as Sashki said I should contact you." They are actively bringing us together to form, I describe it as a coalition of light. Because, there are forces on this planet trying to move humanity in darker directions. And there are forces trying to move us in lighter, better directions. And I am continually meeting people, and we just kind of click and resonate. And we know we're being guided together. That's what I do when I go to a convention. I walk around, I open up my spirit, I look at every booth, I look at every person, and every once in a while, they're the person I'm supposed to meet here. That's why I'm here.
Yep.
And you connect with them. And yeah.
It really is like warming my heart to hear you say these things, because there really are no coincidences. Like,
Yeah, no, it's funny. It's interesting you say that. In the last couple of weeks, me and my group, we've been experimenting with water, and you can't host Zoom meetings from in a shower,
right.
but we've been sitting with our feet in buckets of water
Yep.
to see if that would have some kind of effect.
Yeah.
And it's non-conclusive at the moment, but it did seem to amplify what we were doing.
Yeah. I've been told that I am a Pleiadian emissary of light for the Galactic Federation, and I am a water activator. So water plays a big role in, I believe it's because I broadcast information, and I really do think that water is a conduit, so as we do more experimentations, maybe we'll get conclusive evidence about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else, Rupert, that you'd like to share with our audience, with the universe?
Am I allowed to tell people my website?
Yes, please. And I heard you have a Patreon, and I can put all the links in our description.
Fantastic. So my network of groups is called Alien Contact, and most of our activity, a lot of our activity is on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, look up the Alien Contact group, and it's facebook.com/group/Alien Contact Network. Our YouTube channel is at Alien Contact. We actually have a Facebook group in every state. So whatever state you're in, look up Alien Contact or dash your state, Alien Contact California, Alien Contact Wisconsin, and that's where we're posting our upcoming tour events. But our really important stuff happens in the Patreon group, patreon.com/Alien Contact. That's where we connect on 2 or 3 times a week with different species and the Galactic Council, and we do healing sessions.
Yeah. Cool. Such awesome work, and really a pleasure and just a delight to hear all about it. I really am grateful that you spent some time this morning to chat with me, and now I will share this with my network and with our Universe on Earth network. So we're really grateful. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to talk to you, Krystal. I look forward to seeing you in person one day.
Yes, I think it will happen. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to stop recording.